Howdy, this is Quincy in the Ogre Steel Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how to sharpen a kitchen knife. This method will work with any knife you want to put an edge on. I'm going to assume that the edge itself is pretty dull. You can apply this to any of your existing kitchen knives or working knives, hunting knives, etc. It should be a fairly straightforward process. I will also show you the sharpening stones that I use and the whole process done fairly quickly. Notice that the time that it'll normally take to do these is longer than what this video is going to be, but you'll see the technique used and how easy it can be to put a near razor sharp edge on any kitchen knife. Okay, so my sharpening stone set encompasses 3 stones. Let me show you this real quick. Especially when working with a dull stone, I will actually do the 400 and 1000 first, then move on to the 3000 and 8000 stone, and then finish up. And this is really works almost like a leather strap. It's a Japanese whetstone that I've got. You've got a rough side by its standards, as well as then the final surface, which is damn near just ceramic glass. It's got an edge on it, but you can feel that it's very smooth. I'm going to walk through this process step by step. I'll show you the counts that I use, a few other commentaries. You can actually pick up this particular sharpening set or one similar to it at any number of vendors, both online and in probably some hunting stores and so forth. I've been very pleased with the results, and once you get the hang of this, you will be really pleased with the edges that you're able to put on your own steel. Okay, for starters, I want to recommend that you work at a surface where the stone itself is fairly level with your chest. I have a desk in my workshop where I do work like this. I also do my leather crafting and so forth here, but it's just the right height to work with your edge. Get your steel across the stone where you're not too far over it, too far behind it. It makes it very comfortable to work with. So if you can do something like this, I recommend it. You can even do this at your kitchen table, your office if you want. Note that you will get a little bit of dust from the stones as you run the steel over them, so they can get a little untidy. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so the knife we're going to be working with here is one of my sushi knives, and I use this actually for longer meat cutting stuff sometimes. It's fairly thin steel. This is Japanese carbon steel, and really we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So I'm working with my 400 surface. Let me swap that around. It's very simple to do. Get it into the little holder, stick it back into your base, and what I will do is I do basically one side of the edge and then the other in sets of 10. Now this knife already has a reasonable edge on it, but what we're doing here is really getting it to a fine edge, and I'll show you what that looks like when we're done. So you can see roughly what my angle is going to look like. I try and keep this consistent throughout the whole process with every stone I work with. You can look up what proper geometry edges are or what they should be. I've learned that really just by feel, that about 3/4 of an inch off the stone is where the spine, the back of the blade should be when I'm running one that's about this long. If it's a smaller knife, just look at that angle. It's right about there. And you want to maintain that for any knife you're working, regardless of how deep the blade is. So what I'll do is I'll just draw this blade to me, my thumb on the bottom of the edge, fingers on the top of the blade itself, and I will not only pull towards me, but to, in this case, my right, so that I'm getting 2 directions on that steel. And I'll just run through this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would actually do a total of 10. This one doesn't need a lot of work, so I'm going to truncate this a bit. But then you do the other side, maintaining that same angle, and you don't need a lot of pressure. If you've got a really dull knife, you may want to do it a little harder, and if the base starts to move on you, you can do it one-handed. Just make sure that you maintain that same angle of the steel to the stone, and then do your full count. Like I said, usually about 10 if you start with a fairly sharp knife. If it's really dull, you'll want to do most of your work on this 400 to get to a reasonable edge, and that can take quite a while, so be prepared. One thing I want to mention very quickly is as you're going through this process, getting the curve of the edge can be a little tricky. What you want to do is just make sure that you're very careful in ensuring that the angle stays consistent even when you're running over that curve. You can go very slow. As long as the steel is going over the stone, you're going to go ahead and sharpen up that edge. Okay, as you can see, I've swapped out to my 1000 grit edge. I'm going to do the same thing and just draw it slowly across the stone, making sure that I'm keeping that angle straight and consistent, and ensuring that I get the tip of the blade as thoroughly as I get the base of the edge. Alright, I'll do one more side here just to show you how easy it is. And you may get a little bit of what I call waggle as you're pulling it back. As long as you work against that and try and keep it consistent, it should be enough for what I'll call home use and field use. But that's really all you got to do is on this stone, the first two I draw towards me, and we're going to be going to the next stone next. One quick note, you can also use your ear when you're running a stone over this to get the right sound. It should feel very smooth when you get to this stage without any resistance or what I'll call high points in the steel. And listen to that sound. That's what you want to hear, is just a steady scraping of steel on stone. Alright, I've swapped out to my 3000 grit stone. Just drop that new stone in there. Now I'm going to switch things up a bit, and rather than pulling towards me, I'm going to be pushing the blade away from me from tip to the base of the edge. And again, I will keep that angle consistent. Be aware of any flex you might have in softer steel. Like camp knives and hunting knives, you'll get no flex at all. Some kitchen knives, especially if they're thinner, will have a little flex. Just be aware of that as you run it over the stone. And you'll notice that I am pushing it from right to left, as well as along the stone completely. This gives you a lot of good work and makes it more efficient when you're running through it. And then I will do the same thing on the other side of the edge. And I'll work that until it feels really smooth and I'm getting that nice, crisp, steady sound of the steel rolling or moving over the stone. I have now moved up to the 8000 grit, and again I'll be pushing the steel away from me along the stone. And you, like I said, you should be hearing that nice, steady sound, maintaining the angle. And at this point, between 5 and 10 strokes of the steel on the stone should be enough. We're merely refining, taking burrs and microscopic irregularities in the steel off of that edge. And that's it. You do this, again, 10 and 10 usually is enough at this stage. And then I move to my final stone, so stand by. So I'm now on the rougher surface of my honing stone. Same system, you're just going away from you. The full edge of the blade. And you'll notice that sound is very smooth, very consistent, and it really just glides over this stone. And then you reverse it and do the same thing on the other side. Alright, last stage. I am on that final ceramic piece, which works similarly to what a leather strop will when you see the old barbers doing their razors, straight razors on a leather strop. This serves a similar purpose, and this takes the final irregularities out of the surface of that edge. Very quiet, very smooth. There's no resistance points as I go over that steel. I do the same thing on this side. And I'll finish that up, and then I'll show you what we've wrought. Alright, so this really is a good test. You can do this at home. I've got my knife that I've just sharpened to a fine edge and a piece of paper. And all you do is draw it across that paper, and I got the full length of the blade, and you can see it goes through that like a knife through butter. So that's it. You can do that with any kitchen knife you have, your hunting knives, camping knives. The process is generally the same. There may be, for the really serious folks, there may be different angles you want to put on that. I've never had a need to worry about it. But now that thing is ready to cut like a razor. Moving forward, make sure that you're very careful with your knife, because it will not say I'm sorry. And that's it. You will get dust on the handle and even on the steel. You can wipe that off. Just clean it up before you put it to use. And you do this every few months, and you will never fight your knife in the kitchen again. So thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. If there are links in the image, click those. Be sure to like this and follow me if you like to follow knives. And thanks again. You take care.